The breaking news of today is that SBF has been found guilty of all 7 counts that he was charged with. So that is very big news. He's actually going to be sentenced in early next year, which we're going to talk about in just a little bit as well. And of course, the core price action that I want to discuss with you guys is also very interesting at the moment, because what we've seen very conclusively now at this stage quite clearly is that Bitcoin did manage to get that nice breakout above that 35k level, but we didn't quite go significantly higher above it. You see, we only topped out about 2% above, 3% above that area. So actually we did kind of hit the key targets that we're usually looking for, but it doesn't quite seem like it was enough. And we have seen Bitcoin dip back down, and we're actually starting to find some support along this line that I drew for you guys in a recent video. So there's a lot that I want to go over with you guys in today's video, and I actually want to start with the price analysis before we switch back to the SBF news. It's actually really big, and there are a couple thoughts I want to share with you guys. But before we do get to that, the core stuff for me is this TA on the short term. And really, the biggest thing that I think is worth paying attention to at this stage is that we have this kind of pre-existing area of resistance sitting up here at about $35,000, and we managed to get above it and kind of flip it a little bit. Not really, but we did manage to stay above it. Like I said, we did kind of dip below and then come back up. But now what we've actually done ever since we started to dip back below this line, this yellow line right here, is we have started to find resistance here again, and that is not a good sign. One of the things that we want to see if this market can continue to climb up is that we're not going to do stuff like this. If we get the breakout and then, for whatever reason it doesn't work, the last thing that you want is to see that, we're now finding resistance at the same place as well. Now, this doesn't necessarily have to be a big deal. I mean, we're very zoomed in right now. We're on the 1 hour time frame. If we take a look at this on the 4 hour time frame, for example, still not great, to be honest, but the more you zoom out, the better this will start looking in terms of, not looking like such a bad rejection. I mean, in terms of Bitcoin, kind of core characteristics with price action, this isn't particularly atypical of an uptrend, but it's also just with recent kind of moves we've pulled off in the market on the daily time frame. We have seen stuff like this before, where we kind of get that high, recover for a little bit, get that high again, recover for a little bit, and then get a new high. And it kind of looks like what Bitcoin has been doing right now. So does that mean we're going to pull off something like this? I don't know, not necessarily. But if this kind of, honestly, relatively recent daily chart price action, if this daily chart price action is anything to go off, and especially considering that this is recent from the second half of this year, which is of course what we're still in, then it's not a great sign. It's definitely a sign that we have formed a kind of top pattern that Bitcoin has shown us before. Now, like I said, this doesn't actually have to be a bad thing. There are a lot of examples where Bitcoin has actually been in, these kind of uptrends that start off very explosive and then become a little bit less explosive and then carry on being explosive. We've seen that already just with this pre-existing trend that I demonstrated for you in just literally the last YouTube video. Those of you that have been subscribed are going to be very well clued up on that. The same thing with this price range as well, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was actually this price range. And you can zoom out, you can zoom in, you'll find this stuff all over the chart. If we look at really any uptrend sequence in the market, here's another great example. We had a really nice big explosive rally, slowed down a little bit, continued with that rally over here. In fact, and by the way, this looks like kind of what Bitcoin has pulled off recently. So it is definitely, this has been within Bitcoin's kind of body language, Bitcoin's kind of characteristics for setting these tops. But again, we've got that nice big move up, that explosion. We kind of, cool off for a little bit, continue moving up, and then we continue even higher. So from those perspectives, we form both something that has been used in a bullish way and in a bearish way in the past. But, I think that this is starting to, especially with that rejection that we've just seen on the 1 hour time frame, this is definitely starting to weaken a little bit from my perspective. I'm going to be watching to see where we see signs of this from other, kind of markets across where I like to view as well. I definitely think that those are going to be important to keep in mind as we continue on in this crypto market as well. And I do want to, kind of highlight for you where Bitcoin could go if we start to fail from these areas. So if Bitcoin does lose this particular area of support, I do think we're going to be looking at a relatively steep drop down to this next yellow line that I've got here at about 33.4, 33.5. Honestly, you could even draw this line all the way up to 33.6. I think that this would be quite fair. Even, another little area of support here at 34.1, which really isn't far away. That's only $400 away from the current price. There are a good few places that Bitcoin could still find support within this market. So that's something I'm going to be kind of keeping in mind. But this is like the nice big one that I think is quite obvious. And fortunately for the bulls, it does line up with some really good support on the 4 hour time frame. In fact, if we move down there at any point, basically starting in 2 days from now, we're going to start to see that there's some really nice kind of Ichimoku support right here on the 4-hour time frame. So that is absolutely beautiful. If Bitcoin holds sideways here as well, then what that would mean is that we're going to start to see this Ichimoku cloud potentially providing some sort of, trampoline for Bitcoin to jump off of and then continue this uptrend. And one of the reasons that I actually think this is a really big deal, and one of the reasons that I think this indicator is very useful in market situations like this, is because we're actually in a situation now where if Bitcoin manages to get this deviation to the upside, but then for whatever reason does not crash below this yellow line, like even if we go all the way down to this yellow line, but as long as we don't lose it, we're still going to be in a pretty bullish posture, right? And so, what that means is we might end up coming down here, maybe grabbing a liquidity test down here and then staying back in this range. And what this would mean is that this whole area would start to become really good support. And essentially it would represent a new window of opportunity for the bulls as far as I see it. This is the same style of analysis I've given you guys a lot in the past, and it's actually been really, really useful. Actually very, very high success rate on this style of analysis. And I think that's because it's actually just very realistic. All we're doing is we're simply saying, look, the bull is in the court of the bears right now, the bull is in the court of the bulls right now. And one of the reasons that works out really well is I'm not saying that, one thing or the other must happen, but what I'm saying is that if there is ever an opportunity for the bulls or the bears to pull off something interesting, it would be at these respective times. And that's really important to keep in mind because, if we, right now, I think perhaps are poised a little bit more to drop to the downside, but for whatever reason, if that doesn't happen, basically just up until what is this, like 4 or 5 days away, then we're going to have a new window of opportunity for the bulls, which I think is absolutely fantastic. And of course, we're going to expect more opportunities for the bulls than for the bears because we are in a bit of an uptrend. So this could get very interesting, just kind of losing this area of support coming down here, this nice little 2.8% drop, little 10x, 15x leverage. You're already looking at 30 to 45% profit around there. Very, very nice profits in these little ranges right here, especially kind of going short off this top even better. We're looking at a 4% range over here. So there's definitely some good stuff going on here in terms of trading opportunities that I'm interested in. And of course, I'm going to be looking to trade these opportunities with the links down below. Bybit remains my top exchange where you can get up to $30,000 for free to trade with when you start trading using my link. CoinW also gives you $50 for free to trade with just when you sign up and open your futures account using my link as well, which is super, super cool. Also, when you deposit $100 and then you make any trade worth any amount of money, you're going to get another 100 for free. So you can effectively more than double your trading capital just by depositing $100 on CoinW, which is super, super cool. But obviously on the note of exchanges, guys, we are going to talk a little bit about SPF in a second. Regardless of which exchanges you use, including the ones that I think are fucking phenomenal with amazing offers, you must keep in mind that any of these exchanges can go bust at any moment. I certainly don't anticipate that they're going to go bust, and I'm keeping, my trading money on these exchanges as well. So I'm suffering the same risk that you guys are suffering, but ultimately that doesn't make it okay. You must understand that if they're not your keys, they're not your coins. And if you don't even know what that means, go take yourself to Google, bro, because you need to do some proper research here. You're not informed enough to really even be watching a video like this or any YouTube video about crypto. You need to know much more about how this stuff works, to be honest, just to make sure that you are keeping yourself safe. So, that's a really important note that I must highlight to you guys. You shouldn't be keeping any more money than you absolutely need to on these exchanges, even though you're getting really cool offers. Guys, when you use the offers I'm telling you about in the description, get your offer, get your free money, and take your money off the exchange. There's no reason to keep it there unless you anticipate using it, which, by the way, it's not a good thing for me to say. Like, the exchanges that work with me, they want me to tell you to keep your money on these exchanges, but fuck them. I'm not going to do that. You have to make sure that you're putting your money in safe places, to make sure that, you're not suffering the risk of an exchange fucking collapsing and you're going bankrupt. There's a lot of really smart people that don't actually take these precautions, by the way, and if you're one of them, don't be playing with fire. Here we go. Let's take a look at this news article right here. This was posted, quite a few hours ago at this stage. Actually, not that long ago. And what we had was, SBF's guilty verdict will help break crypto free. Obviously, I think this is a bit of a pipe dream right here, but I do want to discuss this with you guys, how likely it is that, the SBF getting charged for, getting a guilty verdict for all of these things, how good that's going to be for crypto, if it's going to have any effect at all. But just before we get into that, let's highlight a couple key points over here. The trial lasted roughly 4 weeks, and one thing that was really interesting was that a lot of his former colleagues actually started to what's the right word? Testify against him. I was gonna say rat on him, but that's not the word we're going for here. They decided to testify against him, presumably, of course, to get shorter sentences or whatever the case may be. And that did seem to contribute to what's actually been charged against him. If we do take a look at this article right here on beloved Cointelegraph, the guys that posted the fake article about the ETF some days or weeks ago, they have also posted about this one here. 2 counts of wire fraud, 2 counts of wire fraud conspiracy, securities fraud, commodities fraud, and money laundering conspiracy. So big charges here. Just to put this stuff in perspective, you get charged more for stuff like this than you do for a lot of violent crimes and things like rape, even depending on where you are in the United States. Not that that's what this channel is about, but I do think that's worth highlighting just for the sake of conversation. And so, heavy charges here for these kind of things. He's facing a maximum sentence of 110 to 115 years. I've seen conflicting reports about that. It's big. These articles kind of go into detail about, a little bit more of what actually happened. And the bottom line, guys, is, and you can go ahead and read these. I'm going to try and link them in the description for you right below that like and subscribe button. The thing about these kind of things, ladies and gents, that I think is really important to keep in mind is that, first of all, this is not a surprising outcome. I had a question today. What do you think about this? How does it affect the crypto market? And I was like, well, dude, first of all, we all knew that this was going to happen to SBF. I mean, most people knew that this was going to happen to SBF immediately when FTX collapsed. If you didn't know it was going to happen then you would have known when the Bahamas arrested him. If you still didn't know it was going to happen then you would have known when he was extradited to the United States. And that was basically his final, that was his final hope gone as far as I'm concerned. He did, manage to get bail or whatever, but look, once he was on US soil, that was it, really. I think everybody kind of knew that. So, we talk about these ideas of like, well, what is this going to mean for the crypto market? I mean, look, and it's always the people that read the news, whether you're smart or not, whether you're the one writing the news or not, it really doesn't matter. It is the people that are in or around the news, whether you're reading it or producing it, that think that these things actually fucking matter. But I promise you they don't. I'm telling you this from 6.5 years of experience in this crypto market. These kind of news events don't hold any bearing. Anything that the market would have experienced in terms of, some sort of sigh of relief or whatever the case may be as a result of SBF finally, going ahead through to sentencing in a couple of months, in about 5 months from now, any impacts that could have had on price would have already happened. And it would have already happened like 11 months ago when he first was extradited to the US or whenever that ended up happening. It certainly is not something that, I certainly don't think that this is something that, is going to be, priced in anytime soon. I think it already happened. So, we talk about like, well, what effect is this going to have on the market? Absolutely fucking nothing. That's my answer. And that goes the same for all of these events. Anything where, the outcome is obvious or, there is a certain deadline or a certain kind of, date that something is going to happen. You don't actually see price reactions coming as a result of that. You might actually see the price drop. As a result of the news event finally playing out, because now there's no reason to be in the market. You know what I mean? Like if there was a bullish, technological upgrade for Bitcoin and it's going to hit on fucking December 1st, then sure, in the month leading up to December 1st, i.e. this month, we're going to see some nice little gains for Bitcoin. But once that update rolls out, I mean, that's it. What, are people suddenly going to start using Bitcoin because the tech got better? Obviously not. And if that's what you think, then you're way too diluted for this channel. But I don't think there's many of you guys that exist anymore. Unfortunately, you've been washed out from the market. So I think that's really important to kind of manage expectations and just stay realistic about what's going on with this SBF stuff. It doesn't really matter to me, and it shouldn't matter to you what the opinions are of this happening. The bottom line is that SBF massively embarrassed the US government, so he's getting his turn now. And hopefully, it's just going to scare scammers. That's the best thing that we can hope for from now, in terms of, less bullshit basically happening in the space, the best thing I think we can hope for now is that, any prospective scammers or any existing scammers fuck off, don't try, that kind of thing. Is it going to work? Obviously not really, but clearly things are tightening up. I think one big thing that's worth taking into account is, and I've spoken about this obviously before, is there are a good number of countries that don't even allow exchanges like Bybit in their country anymore. With all of these countries kind of being washed out one by one, unable to use these platforms, I think what we're actually going to end up seeing is less derivatives in the market, less trading, less leverage volume in the market. And that has really interesting consequences. I mean, if there's less leverage overall in the market, but you still have leverage, or in this case, I still have leverage, then that puts me at a massive advantage. If nobody else has leverage, but I do, the reason that puts me at a really big advantage is number one, we're going to have much more organic price action. One of the best ways to fuck the price action, one of the best ways to give us these crazy manipulated candles and wicks and so on, is to have leverage available in the market. So if we're going to have less of that, then we're probably going to have less of this manipulation. And then obviously, the way that kind of bleeds into number two is that if I've got the leverage available, then basically I've got an even safer market with a very useful tool available to me to trade it. So it's a blessing and a curse. If you're in one of the countries where your government doesn't restrict you because they just reflect your financial sovereignty, then you're good. Then you're actually in a really, really good position. But if you're not, it does suck. But I think one thing that it will do overall is because of that lower manipulation for everybody, the markets are going to be even easier to trade. So I don't know, just a speculation. We're going to have to see how this continues. And honestly, these exchanges are going to have to get banned in many more countries for this to actually have an effect. I mean, just taking the UK and USA out, I mean, it's big, don't get me wrong, but they're not, like a lot of the trading volume, people don't even realize this, a lot of the trading volume actually comes from the East, from Asia, in countries like that. So, I think we're going to have to see a lot more lights kind of switching off before this has a massively substantial effect. But it's just a hypothesis for me, just an idea. Obviously I just try and, have these kind of conversations with you guys on these YouTube videos. But let's come back to the price action here, because obviously this is a little bit more interesting than that. Bitcoin has been able to stay above this kind of level for quite some time now. I was calling this kind of the midpoint for Bitcoin's trend right here. And I think this is also going to be one of those crucial levels. I did mention this as being a potential area of support for Bitcoin at about 34.1. We can actually just drag this line a little bit lower. Doesn't really have to be lower. In fact, ideally we would have a box over here, but I think 34,160, very, very, very fair level to put this line at. I do feel like if Bitcoin does end up losing this level, then, it shouldn't be too hard for Bitcoin to fall all the way back down here, especially considering that we don't have a whole lot of support. I mean, if we look at this on the 1 hour Ichimoku cloud, we've lost that support. If we look at this on the 1 hour EMA ribbon, we've lost that support. If we look at this on the 4 hour EMA ribbon, this is the only support that we have left, and it ends basically at this yellow line as well. So, all of these short-term indicators that could help Bitcoin are basically not around anymore, or are going to stop being around more or less if we lose this level. So I'd be expecting a bigger drop, and then from there how low this drop goes is hard to say. I definitely would be happy if it stopped over here. Is that actually going to happen? I don't know. I definitely think that it's worth entertaining the ideas of Bitcoin kind of falling down to these lower price levels. And one of the key reasons for that is just by displaying to you charts like this right here that really kind of illustrate exactly what kind of situation Bitcoin is in right now. If Bitcoin does manage to get a bigger drop to the downside here, we're actually going to have really good support lining up over here with our 618 Fibonacci retracement, which does sit very nicely at about $30,000. So it really lines up at that beautiful psychological area of support. And of course, this is exactly where Bitcoin is finding resistance. So it's worth noting, and I said this from the very first day, that Bitcoin still hasn't actually tested those levels. So, now that, we're looking at what is quite clearly a nasty deviation above our resistance, if we do end up kind of, fumbling the bag and dropping below these support areas, then I think it's a really quick drop down to 30K, and potentially even lower, potentially even levels like this 786 retracement. The really good news for Bitcoin though is if we do take a look at this on a much more zoomed out chart, The really good news is that we have got a lot of support, at this, take a look at this. There's almost nothing right here. We can actually just hide all of my lines and stuff. We're just looking for these big spikes on the chart here. And there's basically nothing, around where we are right now, especially if we kind of lose this area. All of the support, according to the VPVR, ends at about 33.9. So if we do end up losing this area, that's it. It's lights out until we fall back down to that kind of very low $30,000 area. And then it's heavy support all the way down to 25K. Heavy, heavy, heavy support. I can definitely see Bitcoin dropping down into these areas, but for Bitcoin to drop even lower down to the bottom of this range or even out of this range would, that would definitely start being surprising to me. I think that Bitcoin's got a really, really good setup down here, but obviously, if it's support that we're going to try and hit, it's far away. And the reason that's far away is, of course, the same reason that we went up so quickly, is that we had no resistance on the way up. And so naturally, we're not going to be expecting much support on the way down. And this is actually the exact same thing that I said in reverse for the S&P 500 for you guys 2 days ago. And that is exactly what happened. When the S&P 500 managed to get this bounce, I was telling you, look, there's no resistance on the way up. That's why the price didn't find any support on the way down. And so naturally, I'd be expecting a very quick recovery, and that's exactly what happened. The S&P 500 has now managed to get above this crucial area of resistance. And if we can stay above it now, today is a Friday, of course, if we can stay above it now, that's it, ladies and gents. I think that the S&P 500 is going to be in a phenomenal position. Now what we've actually done here is we've formed the S&P 500's biggest correction, both in terms of time and price, if I'm not mistaken, since we bottomed out. This was towards the end of 2022, this was towards the end of 2022, October. The S&P 500 bottomed out. It formed a really big rally, and it didn't really form particularly massive corrections. Here is an 8% correction that took 2 weeks. Here is another 8.5% correction that took 40 days. This correction, meanwhile, took 90 days, so basically more than double, and it even went bigger than that. So, 8.5% versus 10.7% might not sound like a big deal to you, but this is the biggest index in the United States, and the United States is a big economy, if you haven't heard. So, that difference represents a lot of loss, across the stock market for the US. So it's definitely a big deal, and we've now seen all of that recovered as well from this kind of loss that we started towards the middle of October. So really strong performance here from the S&P 500, definitely looking good to me. I think that if we are able to hold above this level, then like I said, it's all-time highs for the S&P 500 quite likely. The dollar also dropping like a rock right now, falling right below this area of support. Very, very nasty place for the dollar to be. The dollar is about to fall into another range, which, certainly could be useful with this kind of red line, but I don't even know. We could probably even remove this line, to be honest, and the chart still looks pretty good. I'm going to keep it just because of these kind of reversals, this consolidation, a couple, hits over here, but it's really not a let me actually make this a dashed line, because it's really not a particularly strong area of support in my opinion. And so now that the dollar has dropped like this, it certainly looks like it could continue. It's fallen below its support area, of course, and if it does continue, then it's got a long way down to drop. Now, lately, that kind of thing hasn't mattered to Bitcoin, so I don't know how we can relate it to Bitcoin. It's not necessarily, bullish or bearish for Bitcoin in terms of, recent price action for Bitcoin compared to the dollar, but overall, a weaker dollar should be better for Bitcoin. A weaker dollar is generally better for the S&P 500, of course, and, a strong S&P 500 usually means a strong Bitcoin. So, and this is the thing, is that, Bitcoin from a purely technical perspective, especially short term, to me, doesn't look great just because of that deviation. It would all start looking better again if we can get back above this yellow line at 35K, 34.8, then sure, I'm going to be pretty happy with this market. I'm going to be pretty comfortable with it and where it's headed, but as it stands right now, the fact is that we've started to now find support here. We've deviated above. This is definitely a clear sign that at least Bitcoin's short-term chart does want to kind of dip down a little bit. And this is all within the backdrop of actually a really bullish climate for everything speculative. So, Bitcoin is clearly kind of on its own path right now. I think that, the bottom line is that if Bitcoin, going into the next trading week and towards Monday, the next 3-4 days can can actually hold its ground here instead of dumping down, then I think we're going to start to see some opportunities reopening for Bitcoin. And I actually think that that's going to put Bitcoin in a very strong position. So there you go. I really hope that you have enjoyed this YouTube video. Of course, if you want to trade these markets in the same places that I'm trading them, then you can join the exchanges I'm using with these links down below. CoinW and BingX are both no KYC exchanges, so great for people that love the additional flexibility as well. Obviously, you can't use any of these exchanges if they're banned in your country, so please do be careful of your local laws. Bybit is going to be giving you up to $30,000 in free trading capital when you sign up and start trading using my link right here in the description, which is super cool. You can also buy and sell shitcoins to your heart's desire with no trading fees. And CoinW is going to be giving you, as I said, $50 for free to trade with. So you just have to open a futures account and that's it. You get $50 for free. And if you deposit $100 and you make any trade worth any amount of money, they're going to give you another $100 as well. So you can just deposit $100 and you'll be sitting on a $250 account, and whatever you do with those $250 is completely up to you. You can throw it anywhere you like, and if you ever generate any profits with it, you can withdraw those profits as well. So that is super, super cool. If you do find any of these offers interesting, then definitely do check them out. But with that, ladies and gents, I'm going to be heading off. You know what to do. If you have enjoyed this video, hit the like, subscribe, tick the bell, do all the good stuff, and I'll see you all in the next one. Cheers.